Shabbat Shalom. We are so grateful to all of you for joining us, both here in our inspiring sanctuary and from the comfort of your homes. Now, earlier this week, in this very sanctuary, as we welcomed back our faculty from Wise School and our Aaron Milken Center, we asked each of them to go across the campus and take a photo of some place that felt like home. As you might imagine, there were some offices, there were some classrooms, there were some outdoor areas. But it's probably no surprise to know that there were a lot of photos of this room right here. And so, it was obvious in that moment how many people call this place home. And so on this Shabbat, it's my privilege to say, welcome to Stephen Wise Temple. Welcome home. We're going to continue with a reading on page 9 at the bottom of your prayer books. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and in hope, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born in friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. We continue with Yedid Nefesh, which you'll find on page 10.
We hope you'll join with us. Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman, Av HaRachaman, Meshoch Avdecha El Retzonecha, El Retzonecha. Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman, Av HaRachaman, Meshoch Avdecha El Retzonecha, El Retzonecha. Yarutz Avdecha Kemo Ayal Yishtachaveh El Muladarecha. Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman, Av HaRachaman, Meshoch Avdecha El Retzonecha, El Retzonecha.
We're going to light the candles, but I also just want to reiterate Rabbi Josh's words, how special it is to be back in our sanctuary together. And if you're not here on our campus, you wouldn't have seen that we have lots of children outside for our Back to Wise Shabbat, also enjoying our campus outside safely. It's so, so special to be back here together. Please join us as we light our candles on page 2. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. You may be seated. Lechonaranana, let's welcome Shabbat, page 13.
לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. נריע, נריע, בצור אישנו, נגמרנה בתודה. נריע, נריע, לצור אישנו, בזמירות נריע לו. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני.
לך
דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת מקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה.
שבוע וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה בראש מקרן יסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה.
אוי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. טוב אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה.
We'll ask you to remain standing as we continue with our call to worship, the Baruch Hu on page 28.
la 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 la
ברכו את אדוני
Let's continue with our prayer for evening, for gratitude for this special time, page 30.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravi. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravi. בחוכמה פותח שערים, ובתבונה משנה איתי. ומחליט את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים.
במשמרותיהם ברקיע כי רצונו, ברקיע כי רצונו.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim.
Prepare ourselves for Shema Yisrael. It is a prayer that reminds us of the oneness of the universe, our connection to one another, because we are all part of that echad that comes from God. Take a moment to reflect on unity, on connection, on how we are all part of something so much bigger than ourselves.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai
Page 41, a kavanah before Michamocha, our prayer of freedom. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and for the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora te'ilot, osefele, osefele. Malchucha ra'u panecha, bokeh hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Eli anu ve'ameru Adonai imelo le'olam ha'ed yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai yai lai v'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov uge'alo miyad chazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai Gaal Yisrael. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai. Amen.
Hashkivenu is our evening prayer. It's an opportunity to give thanks for that sense of shalom, that sense of shelter, and really ask God, more than anything else, to bless us and to grace us with a Sukkat Shalom, a shelter of peace for this Shabbat and always.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu, L'Shalom.
Le'ha'amidenu, Shomrenu le'chayim, U'feros aleinu, Sukkat Shalom
Ashkivenu,
Ashkivenu
Adonai Eloheinu,
Eloheinu
Ashkivenu,
Leshalom.
Ashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ashkivenu,
Friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
We all have loved ones in our lives who are suffering right now. Now is our opportunity to offer a prayer for them. But let's not stop with that. When we come home from our services tonight, or when we turn off our screens, however we're doing it, let's reach out. Let's text, let's call, even if it's to ourselves, just to remind them that we're there and that we care. So that's the simplest way to make sure that our prayers for healing are not only heard down here, but also on high. El Elyon, God Most High, we pray, heal us now.
We're going to use a special blessing tonight on page 253. Birkat Gomel, a blessing that we say anytime we've survived a challenging situation.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hagomel l'chayavim tovot shegmalani kol tov.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Hagomel
l'chayavim tovot shegmalani
kol tov.
May the one who's given you another day show me more kindness as I go on my way. May the one who's given you another day show you more kindness as you go on your way. May the one who's given me another day show me more kindness as I go on my way. Mi shegem alechem tov, hu yigmarchem kol tov selam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hagomel
We invite you now to find the prayers that are within your heart this evening. Perhaps you'll find those prayers on the even pages of our prayer book, where you'll find our traditional tefillah, or maybe you'll find it on the odd pages where you will find poems inspired by our traditional tefillah. Or perhaps you're going to write your own this evening. Whichever is your choice, our Amidah begins, give me a moment because I had it here, on page 46. We invite you to please rise and find whatever prayer is appropriate for you this evening.
Shalom Rav, page 60. You may be seated. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Ta'asim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Ta'asim Le'olam.
Shalom Rav Yisrael
Thank you so much. We have an opportunity this evening that is somewhat unique, and that is our own Rabbi Josh Noble, many of you know, is a graduate of West Point, and he also served in the United States Army for many years, and he was actually in Afghanistan in 2007 and 2008, and over the years of working with Rabbi Josh, I've heard a little bit about his time there and his service there, and he shared with me some of his thoughts about our longest war that is coming to a conclusion right now. And I wanted to ask a few questions, especially given the events of the last couple of weeks. So thank you, Rabbi Josh, for agreeing. Not that you had any choice. I mean, you had to come, but...
Well,
but
you
for
did ask.
I did ask, but
did
for
ask.
sharing something that's very personal, and but I think obviously so very timely, and we'll try to connect it a little bit to this week's Torah portion. But first, tell everybody a little bit about your jobs when you were in Afghanistan. What were some of the things that you were doing? You were a captain at the time. Tell us a little bit about your responsibilities.
Sure. So I deployed as a telecommunications company commander with the 82nd Airborne Division. My company provided internet and telephone service with small teams, either to fire bases operated by United States forces or to coalition forces.
What is a fire base? What does that mean?
It's a really small base, sometimes a hole in the ground. Now, sometimes we had bigger bases that we supported, especially if it were, if we were supporting Polish forces or British forces, or we even supported New Zealand forces across Afghanistan. I mean, the interesting thing was that I got to visit pretty much all of Afghanistan, which is not something that a company line officer normally gets the opportunity to do.
As a veteran of the conflict, you were there for more than a year, and as you just said, you got a chance to visit all parts of the country, and I'm sure there's more than you can possibly put into just a few minutes, which is all the time we have for this evening. But what are some of your thoughts and reactions to some of the things that you've been reading and seeing over the last couple of weeks?
Reading, I'm not sure we have enough time for that. But like anyone else, it's hard not to look upon our departure with a sense of disappointment, even grief. I was lucky that we didn't lose any of our soldiers there, but classmates, friends, colleagues, and in some cases, local Afghans, families, children that you knew were lost in some way due to the conflict. That being said, if I'm being perfectly honest, when we departed in 2008, I probably would have predicted the same outcome when we left. I had no idea we would be there as long as we were. I would probably predict the same outcome if we left in another 20 years from now. Having been there and having seen just how vast Afghanistan is and how complicated it is and how different every single people is within every different region, their different objectives, their different goals, their different needs, their different dialects. The task that we set ourselves to seemed like pushing the stone up the hill.
So the idea of some sort of centralized authority that could bring the entire country together, that struck you as a fantasy?
Yes. And this is, could it be done? Maybe. But from what I learned, from what I knew, it would be hard to see. America is a much more homogenous society, and it certainly doesn't seem that way right now. But we're a much more homogenous society than Afghanistan is. We were sort of born through the same crucible. We eliminated those people who weren't born through that same crucible, for better or for worse. And here we stand, and we have our squabbles, but our ideas of what it means to be a country are very closely associated with one another. Whether you're talking about the divide between north and south, between urban and rural, we're still at least speaking the same language. That wasn't the case in Afghanistan. Maybe some things changed, of course, since I was there. I don't want to speak as if I'm an expert. This was just my impression.
I assure you, you know more than probably any of us in the room in terms of firsthand experience. I want to ask you to try to make a connection to this week's Torah portion, which you can always do. You're a rabbi. You've been trained to do these things. But there were so many significant coincidental connections, I think, that I saw, and I wrote about one of them this week in a little piece that I sent out to the congregation this morning. It was in the Jewish Journal about the very beginning of this week's Torah portion and some of the limitations it gives us, even in an ancient Near Eastern patriarchal setting, on what we are allowed to do with those we take captive. So that was a connection, but you also pointed out a few others. I thought maybe you could say a few words connecting a little bit what we read in this week's Torah portion to some of the things you might have experienced and to some of the things you're feeling right now as someone who served there.
Sure. When I read the Parsha, oddly enough, despite all the laws of warfare that exist in this week's Parsha, I was drawn to some laws about oaths, about the promises we make. And in that section, we're told that when we make an oath to God, lo te'acher l'sholmo, we're not allowed to defer fulfilling that vow because we are accountable to the vow we made to God. And I think, it further goes on to say that if you don't make a vow, you're not culpable for anything, which I think speaks to two different issues that we have. The first, of course, the issue that we face, which is, what do we do now? And I really loved your article that got published this morning, because I think it really spoke to the fact that, yes, we still have obligations. And we don't know how those obligations are going to be fulfilled. But as Jews, we can't just wipe our hands of the situation and say, okay, the United States left, we don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't know what any of the solutions look like. I'm not going to say that I do. But certainly, we do have an obligation as Jews to protect the vulnerable, to maintain the oaths that were made in our name by our country, whether we liked those oaths or not. The second thing I think that it raised for me, and you spoke a little bit about what I read before, which is, according to Abraham Joshua Heschel, our words are commitments. And it's going to sound mean, but it really is disappointing to read so much propaganda that's been created out of this departure. And I will freely admit, I know so little, and there are people who have PhDs in the region, but the region is so vast, it's really hard to have it like, do you have a PhD of Afghanistan in Konar province, or Kandahar province, or in Western Afghanistan, where they speak a whole different language? I mean, it's really hard to fathom that most of the things that are being written right now, especially those that try to definitively declare, oh, we should have done this, or we should have done that, or this is what this means about our country. It just seems to strike of a little bit of hubris. And if our words are really commitments, then we ought to be giving thought to what we say, and whether or not we actually have the experience to make the claims we make, either in person or on television or in print. And that, to me, has been the most disappointing, because I already knew in my heart, I thought I knew how this was all going to end. But to see us react in the way that we're reacting as a country, and I know that's not individuals, these are people who get paid to trigger reactions, but it'd be nice if we just didn't do that for once.
Well, that's a beautiful way to lead us into a prayer for the United States. I mean this sincerely when I say it. It's not a platitude. I want to thank you for your service to our nation. And I can't imagine, even though you've shared a little bit about some of the feelings and experiences that you've had, but I think about what 14 months would mean spending in a place, and I think about your brothers and sisters in arms, people that you served with and that you fought with, people that you knew, whom we've lost. And when you think about all the other human losses, the tens of thousands of innocents who get swept up in these kinds of moments, it's a lot to carry. And maybe sometimes all we have is our silence and our grief, and at the very least, humility enough to show respect for one another, for the difficult decisions that are being made, and for the pain that so many have carried and experienced. Rabbi Josh, please lead us in a prayer for our country.
This prayer I originally wrote following my first exchange of fire in combat. It's gone through some modifications since then, but I hope you'll find it meaningful this evening as we contemplate what lies in store for us both as Americans and as Jews. When I saw the rockets burst overhead, I prayed a prayer for America. An America where everyone could drink readily from the chalice of freedom and opportunity, no matter their gender or the color of their skin or the family they were born into or how long they'd called America home. An America where hatred and bigotry in all their forms were recognized and condemned as a betrayal of those who established this nation, of those who believed in it, and of those who gave their lives to defend it. An America where everyone was seen and heard and embraced for who they truly were, for what they truly felt, and for the gifts they had to offer. An America where our officials banished from the halls of governance any who pursued profit without regard to public welfare, or trampled upon the rights of her citizens, or promised favors in exchange for the corruption of law. An America which set aside its differences to come together as one, as business titans put aside their profits, while representatives disregarded their election campaigns, and everyday people overlooked everyday inconveniences to help one another and to secure the public good. When I saw the rockets burst overhead, I prayed a prayer for America, and I've been praying ever since.
Thank you, Rabbi Josh. Now we offer a prayer for Medinat Yisrael. You can find it on page 259 of your Siddur.
Avinu shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'goalo, Parechet Medinat Yisrael, Reshit tzmichat geulateinu. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Avinu shebashamayim, deliver them and crown their efforts with triumph. Avinu shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'goalo. Bless our land with peace, O God, and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen, Amen. Avinu shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'goalo, Parechet Medinat Yisrael, Reshit tzmichat geulateinu. V'nomar Amen, v'nomar Amen. Amen.
On page 5, words of Kiddush. It's become our custom to take a moment to celebrate joyous events in each other's lives so that we can really experience the sweetness of Shabbat together. So I want to invite you at home, if it's your birthday this week, if you have an anniversary or you're celebrating something else, go ahead and put it in the chat, share it with our community. I want to invite folks who are here with us on our campus. If anyone has a birthday, please rise. We're all going to stand up at the end, so don't be shy. We have a birthday. Happy birthday, Lori. Shabbat Shalom. If anyone has an anniversary, it's my wedding anniversary and Jacqueline's. I celebrated it all week, but it's, it was this week. Happy anniversary. It's my daughter Nomi's birthday yesterday, 18, good God. Any new jobs? Anything else that's going on that brings joy to your lives? I've been looking up there's this website. It tells you what is being celebrated nationally. It turns out today is National Chocolate Pecan Pie Day. So if you're a fan of chocolate pecan pie or pecan pie, whichever you call it, please rise. And in honor of Rabbi Josh and all those who serve our country with distinction, let's all rise together and raise our Kiddush cup in joy.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotov v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'ava uratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishi, ki hu yom tehilo למקראי קודש, זכר לציון מצרים, כיוונו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו, Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat L'chaim.
L'chaim. We'll remain standing for Aleinu L'Shabech, which can be found on page 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני
Can be seated. Page 291, a meditation before Kaddish Yatom. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not yet complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our lives have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in the company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming God, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. Page 294, Kaddish Yatom. If you are in a time of Shiva or Shloshim, the first 7 or 30 days of mourning, please rise. And at home, feel free to type the name of your loved ones in the chat. If you're in the first year of mourning, please rise and add those names to our communal page. And if tonight marks the Yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, I invite you to please rise. If it's your custom to stand in solidarity with the mourners, please do so now as we give thanks to God for these lives we so deeply miss. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'gala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei d'kudashah b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the high places make peace for us here on earth, for us and all Israel and all humanity. As we say together, amen. Amen. You can be seated. I want to thank everybody who's with us in our sanctuary for being here. Those who are joining us from home, thank you so much for being with us in that way. I want to thank David Cates and Jeff Stern, Rabbi Josh Goldberg, our intern, Cantor Emma Lutz, our amazing crew who makes it possible for folks all over the world to enjoy our services. We're grateful to each and every one of you. And as we prepare for the High Holy Days, Cantor, what are we going to be singing to conclude our service?
We're going to conclude with this beautiful interpretation of Hashivenu, a text from Lamentations that we chant in the month of Elul to remind us to return to our best selves, our best practices, the things that make us better. And we hope that you'll join us next Saturday evening for Slichot. We'll be here in person at 7:30 or online, same time. But please register if you want to join us, and we'll look forward to really kicking off the High Holy Day season together. I can't believe it's already here. It's Labor Day this year, Rosh Hashanah, so it kind of fits. It's a perfect time for a fresh start for all of us. So please join us with these words. Return again, Hashivenu, page 358.
Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to where you are, return to what you are, born and reborn, and return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn, and return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Tekiah, Shavarim, Teruah, Tekiah Gedolah.
All right.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.